Hello friends, Ginny D here. If you're new here, I talk about D&D and I make nerdy music videos and costumes. A lot of my videos on this channel are about how to roleplay, tips on developing a character, getting into character, and portraying that character during gameplay. But most of them are about really specific topics, and I realized the other day that I don't actually have a video that's more like a top-level primer for people who are interested in getting into roleplay but not really sure how to start. So today we are gonna do that, Roleplaying 101. We'll talk about how to think like your character and then how to navigate the game world as your character instead of as yourself. This will be in the context of D&D, but most of it will probably apply to lots of different role-playing games and maybe even LARP. Let's get started. It can be easy to play D&D kind of like a video game. Follow clues, achieve objectives, make what you believe to be the smartest or most useful choices anytime you're given the opportunity. And of course, whatever your own personality is, the default for most people is for that personality to come out when you're playing. If you're a jokester, your character will probably make jokes. If you're a persuasive person, you might jump into a lot of NPC conversations. And if you're impulsive, you may be the first one to make an attack. So how do you take a step past that and start making the choices that your character would make? Start responding in the ways that your character would respond. For some people, this might come really naturally, but for others, putting yourself into your character's shoes, or boots of elven kind, might be a little more challenging. And I just want to say, role-playing can be so much fun, but it also makes you vulnerable. It can feel embarrassing or anxiety-inducing to be in character in your games, especially if no one else at your table really does it. But I think there's also a chance that others at those tables might try it if somebody else broke the ice. And even if they don't, if role-playing would make your experience more fun, then you should try it. So I'm gonna break this video down into 4 tactics. Some of these things will take place at the table, but others should take place on your own time, as prep. For each of these topics, I'll give you a sort of a quick start guide, and then I will also recommend a more in-depth video that's related. Together, they should give you a good baseline for getting started with role-playing. The first and most foundational step to roleplay is to get into your character's head. You need to understand the lens through which they're seeing the world and how it differs from your own. Part of this is backstory, but a backstory alone isn't really enough. You can know that your half-elf ranger Lila grew up in a rural trading town with her widower father and learned to hunt in order to put food on the table for her 2 younger siblings. But it's another thing entirely to make the leap from knowing that backstory to recognizing how that upbringing would affect the way that Lila spends money, or how much she trusts her party, or whether or not she thinks it's a good idea to attack the bandit camp that you just stumbled across, or just get past them without being noticed. I have a whole in-depth video on how to develop character personality, and I'll link it in the cards and the description. That's a good sort of further reading option if you want to look into this more. But for a beginner, I have a smaller exercise that I'd suggest to get you started. Grab a sheet of paper or open a document and make 2 columns. One is for you, the real you, and one is for your character. Now I want you to find 3 elements of your life experiences that are different from each other. Lila has younger siblings. Lila knows what it's like to go hungry. Lila lost her mother to sickness. If these are experiences that you haven't had, those are good candidates for this list. Once you've found those 3 differing elements, I want you to imagine how your own life and your own personality might be different if those things had happened to you. If you had younger siblings, would you be protective? Would you be more patient? Would you have taken on more of a caretaker role? Write these things down. How Lila would interact with the world differently because of those experiences. You don't have to think of everything. Just pick one little way for each element that her mindset would be different from yours. You should end up with a list of 3 character traits that aren't in your own personality. Let's say that Lila has a nurturing personality because she grew up taking care of younger siblings. She feels the need to hoard food because she's used to not knowing where her next meal is coming from. And she's drawn to kindly older women because she's seeking a mother figure. These are 3 things that you can start to bring into the game when they come up. If a fellow party member falls in combat, even if your tactician brain tells you to continue attacking the monster, it would be in Lila's character to use her turn trying to help the other player. If the party is invited to a fancy banquet, Lila is stuffing roast quail into her belt pouches. If you meet a kindly older woman NPC, Lila is going to be more inclined to trust them and to be generous with them than she would be to your average NPC. You don't have to go crazy with this stuff. It can be really hard to change the lens through which you view the world, even in a game. But starting with 3 little traits like these can help you differentiate how Lila behaves from how you behave, and how your other D&D characters might behave. And as you get used to them and start to build habits, you can try this exercise again and introduce more traits. By the way, I am working on a new player character named Penelope. You'll get to meet her in her own full video soon, but I thought I would give you a sneak preview as part of today's sponsorship. This video is brought to you by Reroll, an app that allows you to create and customize your D&D characters in adorable pixel art. It works on web browsers, iOS, and Android, and they are constantly growing their selection of races, armors, clothes, pets, and more. So she's a deep gnome, so I'm gonna go with this kind of blue-gray. Oh, that is a majestic beard. Penelope Merkspore, tiny mushroom farmer on the edge. Now we clothe her. I love how you can change the hue and saturation of any item. She can have any color pants that I want. Since she's a deep gnome, I'm thinking that she might not be accustomed to the light on the surface, so I'm gonna give her little medieval sunglasses. Oh, I love this little pack with a lantern on it. Oh my gosh, I'm so excited. For her weapon, we reskinned a great axe as a hoe, like the farming implement, because she's a mushroom farmer. And look, they have a shovel and a scythe. Wow, they have a lot of weapon options. They have so many cool bases. I think I'm gonna pick this stone one, and I'm just gonna make it like a gray stone. And there she is. Penelope! I'm so excited for you guys to meet her. Check it out at reroll.co, and you can build pixel art of your characters for free. But if you want to unlock all the options, this is the perfect time because it's currently 30% off, which means it is just $7 to get access to everything on the app. The question of what your character would do in any given circumstance can sometimes be difficult to answer. You may know how your cleric would respond to someone threatening an innocent, but not how they would respond to an NPC flirting with them, or their food being cold and disgusting at a tavern, or the last bad guy standing begging for his life. You can come up with specific character traits all you want, but they are not going to apply to every situation. So how do you answer the "what would my character do" question on the fly? I think there are two great things to return to when trying to figure this out: their goals and their weaknesses. Every character needs a goal. Why are they adventuring? What do they want? Let's imagine a situation where a fey creature is offering your character a powerful magic item. In exchange, they want you to promise some unnamed future favor. Now, let's say that your character's goal is to become a more powerful wizard than their rival back home. When you think, would my character take this deal? You can ask yourself, what's their goal? Ah yes, power. So in this case, even though an unnamed favor is a risky move that will probably come back to bite them, they might be willing to risk it for power. After all, that's their primary motivator. Now imagine that instead, your character is on the run after defecting from mandatory military service, and their ultimate goal is freedom, to be in command of their own destiny, to be able to make their own calls. That person would respond really differently to that deal. No magic item would be worth selling their future agency, conscripting them into some service that's outside of their control. Similarly, your character's weaknesses can come into play too. I will link to my video about creating character flaws in the cards and in the description. Basically, every character should have some limitation, something stopping them from getting everything they want. These can also be a great point of reference when figuring out how your character would react to something. If your character's weakness is that they're too trusting, that they're gullible, then they might not see offering up a favor in payment as risky at all. They might see this deal as kind of a steal. Or if your character's weakness is that they're mischievous and tricksy, they may think, I'm sure I can find a way to get out of that future favor and basically get this item for free. Whenever you're not sure what your character would do, take a moment and think about their goals and their weaknesses, and whether or how you can apply them to this situation. There's no right or wrong answers. Maybe the power-hungry wizard is stingy about how they use their powers and isn't willing to offer them up in service of that fae, no matter how cool the item is. Or maybe the military defector thinks this magic item could be the key to getting their pursuers off their back and finally releasing them. This isn't about using your character goals or flaws as a key to unlock some correct answer. Instead, it's about using them as a starting point to try and trace a character-driven path to whatever decision they make. When I worked at the Renaissance Festival, I was a shy, awkward girl trying to play a boisterous, outgoing part. One of the ways I managed that was that I got to put on a costume and a shitty British accent and hide the real me behind them. Those things were so different from me, it made it way easier to step into that role and become someone else. In a similar way, using a specific voice for your character can be like a layer of protective padding between your real-life thoughts and motivators and your character's actions. Putting on that voice can help your brain understand, hey, it's time to stop being Ginny, or whatever your name is, I assume it's not Ginny, and start being your character. And it isn't just about creating a mental association. There are also ways that your voice can influence the way you think and the things you say. If your character is shy, speaking in a quieter voice is a constant reminder to you and the people around you that they're timid. If your character is enthusiastic and happy-go-lucky, try to speak every sentence like there's an exclamation point at the end of it. Not only will this remind you of how your character feels, but it can even slightly change the meaning of the things that you say, just based on the tone. While you might say, "I found a spot to camp," as a straightforward way to communicate information, saying, "I found a spot to camp," can give that statement additional meaning, like your character is proud of themselves, or wants to show off to their party members, or really loves camping. You don't have to go full Matt Mercer here and totally disappear into a character voice. You don't have to be a voice actor in order for this to be helpful. Instead, pick one vocal feature that you want to associate with your character. Maybe a pitch, a speed, or an emotion. Maybe your dwarf character has your voice, but pitched down into your alto register. This is one of those tips that'll get more useful over time. It's a habit to build. It might not be that big of a help the first or second time that you use it, but if you commit to using a character voice every session, it'll start to solidify that connection in your mind and make the experience of being in character easy to turn on and off by essentially using the voice as the switch. I have a whole video about how to develop a voice for your character, whether or not you're one of those people who can do accents. I will link that one in the cards and the description. We all know that nearly everything gets easier the more you practice it. That's not new information to share. But I know that practicing roleplay can be kind of scary. If you're like me, you might not want to try something in front of people until you already feel like you're doing okay at it. I have two different solutions for this. First, I would encourage you to talk to your table about your interest in roleplaying. If your fellow players already roleplay, they'll probably want to support you as you learn. By telling them that you want to focus on that aspect of your gameplay, you can create a space where you feel more comfortable, where your party members know to be encouraging and understanding. It also gives them the opportunity to help you learn. Their characters can pitch you some softballs in the game, ask you character-based questions, set up interactions where you can practice. Or if they don't really roleplay, maybe you'll find out that they want to try it out too. If the whole table is feeling their way through learning how to roleplay, each individual person can feel less exposed because you're all trying something new. Either way, I'm always an advocate for just talking to your table. If you're nervous about roleplaying, tell your party and your DM. They might surprise you with how warmly they respond. And if they're dicks, well, screw them and find a table that deserves you. But if you don't feel like you can rely on your party for this, or if you aren't in a game right now but still want to practice roleplaying, then of course I have to plug some of my other videos. I have a series of point-of-view role-playing videos where I portray a D&D style character, a healer who's treating you for an injury, or a jailer making conversation with her prisoner, stuff like that, where I just talk to camera and you can talk right back. My characters will ask you questions, and since it's just a video, you can pause it and take as long as you need to figure out how your character would reply, or go through the video multiple times if you're not sure. These videos are designed to mimic the experience of interacting with an NPC during a D&D game. I've heard that they can be really helpful for people who are nervous to try role-playing because they're extremely low stakes. I can't hear what you're saying. And these characters will respond exactly the same way no matter what your character says. So if you say something stupid, then who's gonna know? They're just a safe, easy sandbox for you to play around with your characters and try on their personalities. I will link to them in the cards and in the description. There are currently 5 in the series and there are more in the works. Role-playing can be so much fun. For me, it's one of the big things that differentiates a game like D&D from a video game. And stepping into someone else's shoes for a while can be really liberating and can give you a chance to explore a different point of view than the one that you inhabit every day. Now, I have to give a few disclaimers, even though I know a lot of people will just pretend they didn't hear them in order to make trouble in the comments. But first, it's what my character would do isn't an excuse to be an asshole. You control what your character does and what they're like, so make one that's fun to play with. Second, every table is different, so you should always communicate with your DM and your fellow players to make sure that you're playing in a way that's fun for everyone. That's it! That is my Roleplaying 101. Let me know in the comments, what do you struggle with when it comes to roleplay? Is there any particular topic you'd like to see me make a video about? I wanna know. I wanna know! Can you show me? I wanna know what roleplay topics you want. Sorry, sometimes the spirit of Phil Collins possesses me.